Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
The fact that our patriotism in America is dwindling, I really wanted to start the American AF movement. Freedom is fragile, very fragile. It takes a certain level of intestinal fortitude to stand up and say and do the right thing to preserve the freedoms that so many have paid a large price for.
American tactical. American as f***.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to the Motivated Mindset with your host, me, Jose Flores, and we are going to go into the why behind what we do in life. Have you ever wondered what truly drives people? I know I do. What fuels their purpose and motivation? In this podcast, we're going to explore those profound questions, uncovering the stories and insights that shape our journeys. Join me as we navigate in the depths of human ambition and uncover the secrets to living a fulfilled life, purpose, and driven. Let's get motivated. Thank you. Hey, welcome to my episode, The Motivated Mindset. I'm your host, Jose Flores. I'm a 30-year veteran, certified personal trainer, certified mediator, and the motivated mindset is to dig into the why. Why do people do what they do? You know, whether you're a janitor or a CEO of a company, that's what we want to talk, because everybody has a story. Everybody has something to say. And I think it's important, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a civilian, regardless of what stage of life you're on, your orientation, doesn't matter. We want to hear your story. So today we got a really good guest. Whether you always hear that term VSO, Veteran Service Officer, what is that? You know, sometimes I know for me, it was challenging when I first got out the military. And how do you navigate this thing, called the VA or your disability? Well, today, hopefully, we'll have some of those questions answered. And again, this is going to be something you can put in the chat, ask the questions, and we'll see it. But before we go into that, I'll tell you a little bit about our guest. Francine Hahn has been a veteran service officer with the Carroll County Bureau of Aging for the past 8 years. Francine is accredited through the Maryland Department of Veterans and Military Families. Prior to this position, Francine was a navigator for the Maryland Health Connection, which is the Maryland Affordable Care Act, and she practiced law in Baltimore City for 16 years, assisting low-income and persons experiencing homelessness in a variety of case types, including housing, public benefits, and homelessness, children's education. Illness forced her to pivot from the law practice. So Francine, she graduated from the University of Maryland, College Park, and from the University of Baltimore School of Law. She is married with 2 young adult children and 2 fur babies. I love that because I love fur babies. I have 2 of them. Okay. Back on task, Jose. I'm right here. Okay. And Francine and her husband live in Westminster, Maryland. So, let's get ready to bring her in.
Interview of the week sponsored by LTD Tactical.
All right. Hey, welcome, Francine.
Hello, it's great to be here.
Thank you for being. This is stupendous. I'm so happy that you're here. And before I get into the question, I want to let you know that I met Francine a couple of years ago, and it's been stupendous ever since we met. She helped me out with my disability. So I'm not just talking about reading. She actually, I'm an actual person, like real, like flesh. She helped me. So we're gonna talk about that. And for that, I'm always internally grateful for that. So what as before we even get into what disability, what I want to know is who is Francine Hahn at her core, and what drives her dedication to serving others?
So I'd have to say, it's my upbringing. My father was in the Marine Corps, Vietnam veteran. He really taught us to value what we have and to pay it forward. And I wanted to go on to graduate school to get a master's in social work. And my father said, you could be a lawyer and have more impact, larger impact. And I said, lawyers, they're not nice. I used other words. And he said, no, really, there are lawyers out there who can do good stuff. And so I found that out through some of my coursework at the University of Maryland. And that got me, I knew that when I went to law school, I wanted to do public interest law. It had to be social justice work. And my father gave me the opportunity to have my voice heard after I was molested by a family member. And he really, that taught me the power of the legal system. And this was the early 80s, and sometime in the assistant state's attorney, they weren't really as interested in the case because things were just different then. And my dad said, I am a Marine. I will find justice for my daughter one way or the other. I prefer to get it through the court system, but if necessary, I will take care of it. And then they just turned it on. And I know without him advocating for me, I don't think I would have been able to get through as much of the healing process as I did by my early young adult years. It really made a difference.
Francine, that is so important, having an advocate in a lot of things that we do in life. And I'm glad that you had your dad, a Marine. I tell you, I've served with Marines, and them guys are really good. They're good at what they do, and discipline. So I'm glad that you had your dad, and just I'm glad that he served. And I know that had to be hard, what you experienced. It wasn't easy.
No, it was not easy, but I wanted to turn it into something that was more positive.
Yeah.
Other people, I wanted to do. I knew that I couldn't absolutely prevent my abuser from doing something to someone else, but I could make it very uncomfortable for him. Yeah. And so by having an article in the Frederick News Post at the time that we went to court, I spoke out to people my age or people who experienced similar things, saying, please ask for help. It's not your fault. Nothing to be ashamed of. And, my dad really set that in my mind, that it wasn't my fault. And both my dad and my stepmom believed me from the first time I told them. So, and I know many people don't have that experience.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And sometimes we think that by asking for help, that you seem somewhat, weak or something like that. It's like, I'll just keep it to myself, because if I say something, then it's my fault or something like that, I know that's not easy, And, what was it that led you to be the veteran service officer? How did you get to where you at now, man?
So after I had to pivot, when I had to move away from legal practice, I knew that I still needed to be in a position where I was serving, where I was using my skills to help other people. And growing up with my father, who had unrecognized, undiagnosed PTSD for pretty much my entire childhood, we were fortunate. He didn't drink, he didn't drug, he didn't do those things. He was not at all physically abusive. But it comes out in so many different ways, and it affects the entire family unit. And so I watched as my dad got diagnosed, went to the VA, got help. He thought he was going to get over on the VA and just get some benefits and not really, I don't have PTSD. And we were all right. Yeah, you do.
Right.
But he really came quite a long way in recognizing how this anger was really hurting him in all aspects of his life. He even gave up his guns because he realized it was not safe for him to have a gun. And that it's just something he had to do. So I was just really proud of him for coming to that realization, for really working hard at mending our relationships with me and with my sister. And I think that took courage. And so I knew that I had a skill set with my legal research, writing, and analysis that I could bring something a little bit different maybe to this position.
Wow. I can relate to the PTSD as someone who's had it. And I remember when I was on active duty, we would self-medicate, and it was like, but this was the difference. When I wasn't alone. I'm a first sergeant, and so would the other first sergeant. So I'll never forget this, Francine. The sergeant major would say, "Hey, let's kill a soldier," which is the code word for a bottle of Cavassier. That was how we did it. Okay, got it. So we would drink all night and get up and do PT. So we had Visine and Listerine. You cannot tell that we have been, but that's how we dealt with it, right? And then when I got out, there was no one there. I didn't have my battle buddies, and that's when it got real for me. It was like, wow, there's no one else here, and it got really bad, to like when it got some help and at first I was like your dad. I said, what money can I get? What benefits can I get? Then I said, wait a minute, I get this much money and it's tax free. You try to rationalize like, okay, if I can get this, then maybe, but no, I got the percentage I got, and nothing changed until something changed in me. And I finally had to say, yeah, I got an issue. Let me go through this and take care of it. So I know for me, it was a long journey. And then when I met you and I got my percentage, because I know we'll be covering this, there was a point where I just gave up. I said, I can't. What's the use of going through the VA system when it's no good, And how did being a lawyer, I know you're the lawyer, and I know that has to come into play when you deal with some of the cases, doesn't it? Or does it? Having that background?
Absolutely. I mean, one, I think that I'm able to go in and read the primary law. I'm able to go in and read the federal regulations, legislative history, statutes, and all of that to figure out when someone, if someone has been denied, I can do that research quickly and then figure out how best to advocate for them. So for an example, like I had a migraine case and I just did not understand why this veteran wasn't getting the full 50% for migraine disorder. And then I realized when I looked into the legal aspects of it, that the key word was prostrating headaches that just put them down and out, and so that changed my tactic. So then it was making sure I had all the evidence to go along and to meet that standard, and understanding how that played into it, and I guess having to collect evidence to prove cases, it's just sort of second nature to me. So as I tell all my veterans, if I don't have the evidence, I can't do it.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, that is a big thing about the evidence. And I know one of the big things I remember is like, when this didn't happen to me, it's not in my medical records when I was on active duty, unbeknownst to me, that connection had to be made, that it was being made. I just didn't know it, that once I got, especially once I got with you, that I could prove it. But I know that had to be challenging. But what does balance look for you in your life between the work you do, your family? How do you balance that?
So I think that becoming very becoming very ill. I had chronic migraine disorder, and that's why I had to stop practicing law, because I was sick 20 days a month. And my children were still young. They were in elementary school. And my husband's also an attorney, and he's a litigator. So a busy household. And I realized that I had to surrender to my body. Like, I couldn't just try to keep pushing through, because the people that were going to suffer the most were my husband and my children. Mm-hmm. And I only have, as parents, we only have one shot with our kids.
Right.
And to enjoy that childhood. And I said, that's my priority, because I always think about it, what would be in my obituary? Well, I want that I was a loving mother, that I was there, that I guided, that, you know, I'm a loving wife, and, you know, those things. You know, I think about it's relationships. It's not I achieved this title or whatever. And so I think that taught me at a little bit of a younger age to balance. And my kids are now 20 and almost 23, and I don't regret a thing. Like, I just feel like I've gotten to be with them and help them grow. And so that's, I think, how I keep balanced.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you're right. They grow so fast. Look, with my grandkids, I didn't see so much with my kids, because I was, you know, when me and Betty were married, because we were so working. But now, for identification, you know how long it took me to get that in my brain? Okay, I got it. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll come right back and answer some of the questions about, you know, how you pivoted and so on. So we'll be right back.
All right.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes, hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana, to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Proud but torn, but if you knew him you would understand. He was raised on how to be brave, just to see the flag still wave, and then he came home with only one hand. 'Cause Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, hear the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hey, welcome. Isn't that song awesome, Francine?
It is. In the video, the whole thing.
Yeah. Every time I hear that, it's just like gives me goosebumps. Let me see. We got some stuff in the chat. Let me see what we got in here. See what kind of stuff we got. I know we got some people. Oh, we got. Let me see. Oh, we got. Look at it. Look, I think you have a really. You got a supporter out there. Oh.
I do.
Yeah. So, and we're going to get to that, Betty. We're going to get to that. That'll be the next one. Example, veteran goes to VA. Where do they start? Yes. And let me see. I think we got Eddie on here. Where's Eddie? I know I see you, Eddie. Eddie, I served with Eddie in Germany in 1990. And he says, hello, Miss Hahn.
Yes.
Hello. we had served together in Germany back in 1984, Ansbach, Germany. And it was crazy. We were just talking earlier about some of the frostbite that we didn't even know we got frostbite till years later in Grafenwehr, and how much it affects us. Do we have a Marine here? Miss Hahn, look who I got. Look.
Yeah.
Angel Rosa, yeah, United States Marine Corps, 8490. Okay, thank you, right. Me and he was the one I tell you about, served in the Marines and retired NYPD cop now in New York. So, hey, thank you, Angel, for being here. And what I'll tell everybody, if you have a question, please put it in the chat, and we'll start answering them as they come. So, hey, we'll go. And one last thing, Francine, you've accomplished so much professionally and personally, And as you look ahead, on the next horizon for you, and what's next in your mission? What are you looking forward to, as you move forward in your career, if anything?
Yeah. So, my health is better now. That's recent, that I got through this whole migraine thing. So I'm thinking about maybe trying to work full time in some capacity because I've been working part time, for health reasons. And I don't know, career wise, I don't have as many huge aspirations at this point. I just, my husband and I are enjoying just learning how to empty nest and enjoying each other in this new stage. And I want to be able to get back and forth to Okinawa every couple of years to see my mother and my whole family in Okinawa. So, those are the things that are just, and then keep up with my creative pursuits. I enjoy quilting and sewing and things like that. So,
cool.
Yeah.
No, that's quality of life. That's what it comes down to. Yeah.
Yeah. My childhood was a little rough. My mom left when I was about 9. And then, the whole thing with that family member.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just feel like this is my time. I told my husband, like this is my time to just sort of exhale and enjoy.
Absolutely. Especially in the crazy times we live at, trying to find that inner peace, I think is so important, So let me see if there's any questions on here that we can start. I don't see any, and put them in the chat, Let me see. So we got some here. No, we don't got one. So, so Francine, what are some of the, in your experience, what are some of the common misconceptions people have about VSOs and the service they provide that you've ran into?
So many of the VSOs are not VA employees. Okay. So I don't work for the VA. I happen to be a county employee, but also I'm accredited through our state department of veterans and military families. So every state has accredited VSOs. So that gives us a little bit more independence. So feel free to say how frustrated you are with the VA, because we are too. But so I think that's one thing about us, and also that unfortunately we don't have the magic wand that will just make it all come together. But our expertise is being able to help veterans and their family members through the process of what kind of evidence is needed. Is this rating even possible? Because some issues only go up to 10%, 50%.
Absolutely. And let's say somebody's in South or North Carolina or Seattle. How would they find the VCO? Like, how would they, find who's their VCO in their area? Where would they go?
Your State Department of Veterans Affairs, whatever it may be called, should have a list of all the certified folks in the state and where they're located, because the states are spreading things out.
No, absolutely. I know, and I'll share this. My mom had came to live with me from New York City. She's back now. And if it wasn't for that, it's amazing how things happen. When I went to the Department of Aging, and that's where we met, was there. And if it wasn't for that, I would have just gave up, like I said earlier. But I can tell you that Francine was the bombastic. I was like, okay, we're just gonna check this box because I was used to the VA. But she sat down with me and walked me through the process, and I was still doubtful until I got my 100%. It's like, okay, and I just always, so like I said, I'm grateful for that. And so on. So, we got a question. Here we go. It's coming right up. Let me see if it'll show up.
Yep,
there it goes.
So are you going to read it, Jose, or?
Yes, I'll read it. Francine, I'm currently at 70%. I'm having the ringing in my ear, but feeling kind of guilty going to the VA. I don't want to take any benefits away from a vet who needs it more. What do you advise?
You're not taking any money from a veteran who deserves it. So we don't have a pie with only so many slices. That's not the case with the VA. And if you are having ringing in the ears, then you should go and have it evaluated. Now, that ringing in the ear is a max 10%. Okay, so it may not get you out of the 70%, but who knows, when you go to an audiologist, you could also find that maybe there's something else going on with your ears.
And I can relate to that. When I first got out, I was like, I got both my hands, my what I thought was my mental everything. I'm like, man, if I were to file, I'm taken away from someone else. And I think that's a normal reaction for a lot of the vets, until I sat down with you and know that every vet, they're gonna get theirs. Somebody they're gonna get theirs. But that was my concern too. So man, if I go in, am I taken away? So I can truly relate to that question from Mr. Lounge King. I like that name, Lounge King. So yeah, no, but thank you.
Can I just add a little something in that?
Absolutely.
That not only are you not taking away from anyone else, this is the cost of war. It's the cost of having a military that's ready to fight, even if you didn't serve in theater. And so all of this is just, in my mind, there should be more money put into the federal budget for the VA, because if our legislators really understood that it's not just buying all the equipment and training, but it's taking care of folks when they get back home, that's all part of the cost of going into conflict. So, so I don't think anyone's taking anything away from anyone else.
Absolutely. Because, when I had to join the Army, at 17, I had to be 100% good, everything, my vision and everything. But when I left, it was like, well, I'm not at 100%, but I'm getting something out of it, which, I served and so on. So there was a lot of confusion on my part, my loyalty of asking for something that, well, man, they already gave me enough. And it's a guilt that I felt why should I ask for more, So I can relate. I think we have a question that says, Betty says, definitely something I have always struggled with. To this day, I feel guilty. Yeah. So that's a normal thing that a lot of people, a lot of vets go through, And, how can veterans determine if they're even eligible for disability benefits, Francine? How can they, is there a way or which
yes. So there's two ways really. So in order to be eligible for VA compensation or disability, you have to have a service-connected injury or illness. So that means that there was something that occurred during your active duty service time that caused an injury or an illness, and that you continue to have residuals of that to this day, and you have current medical records, or you can get current medical records for all my folks who don't go to the doctor to actually document the issue or issues. The other parameter is some people may have come into service with certain conditions, but they were still allowed to serve. If your military service aggravated any of that condition, then that certainly is something that you could seek service connection for. And I guess the third would be, we have lots of presumptive issues. And so what I mean by that is, let's take burn pits, for example. Our PACT Act of 2022 really expanded the types of illnesses that are covered for Gulf War veterans and those who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and so forth. That because you served in those areas, then you are presumed to have been exposed to burn pit smoke and pollution and all that. Yeah. And so if you come down with a respiratory issue, you didn't have to. If you come down, let's say bronchitis is chronic bronchitis is one. If you come down with chronic bronchitis and you served in one of those areas, then it is presumed that chronic bronchitis is caused by your service.
Gotcha.
Okay. And the same for Vietnam veterans with Agent Orange, Camp Lejeune with contaminated water. So we have a few different categories of those presumptive issues.
Wow. No, that's cool. We're going to take another break, but when we come back, one of the questions I want to ask you, Francine, how does working with a VSO improve the chances of a claim being approved? Okay. So on. So we're going to break, and then we'll answer that question.
Sacred flowers, sacred mother, earth is crying for her daughters. Sacred flowers, sacred mother, earth is crying for her daughters. Where have you gone? Who took them from us? Who stole them from us? Sacred flowers. Crying for her daughters. Sacred flowers, sacred mother, back to our lives. You are missing your mist. Sacred flowers.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to MBR, the station that gives veterans voice. And I think that always gets me. I'm sorry. That always gets me every time I watch that. It's just, it's deep, so yeah. One of the questions we left there, how does working with a VSO improve the chances of a claim being approved, Francine?
So we are here to help spot issues because there may be health issues that you have that you don't even recognize as being possibly service connected. And then we can streamline that process. We filled out the forms hundreds of times. So we're familiar with them, even when the VA changes them a little. And so we can just help you pull together the evidence that's needed to get to that point. Also, troubleshooting. We troubleshoot claims as they move through, because I know you won't believe it, but the VA messes things up sometimes.
What?
So we can help sort of head those things off and respond to the VA in a timely manner and that kind of thing.
No, definitely see it. And I have a question here from Betty. She says, still confused. How is 0% 8%? The math doesn't add up. That's her question.
Yeah. So 0% for when people get service connected for something at 0%, they tend to be, upset about that. But I always so there's listings. The federal regulations provides a list of what needs to be met in order to hit 0, 10, 20, and so forth for every condition. A common example right now is for Vietnam veterans who have high blood pressure, because high blood pressure was just added to the Agent Orange list in 2022. It's important to get that 0% connection, because if the veteran is married and the veteran passes before predeceases their spouse, and if their death had anything to do with high blood pressure, primary or secondary cause, and it's on the death certificate, that can open up a really good benefit for the surviving spouse called Dependents Indemnity Compensation, or DIC. And so when I tell veterans that, they're like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Put it on there. God forbid someone gets a stroke or has kidney disease secondary to the high blood pressure. But that's why it's important. And VA math does not make sense. So you could be at 90%, but it might take another 60% rating to get you to 100.
Yes. It is confusing. We have another question from Trace Surrounds podcast. Terry, how you doing? She says, has me and my accent.
Osteoporosis.
Ever been determined to be service connected?
It's a good question. I have not had that myself, but that doesn't mean it's not in there. It would be taking a look at the listings to see, to see what that rating would be. If someone was diagnosed with that while on active duty, then certainly that would be service connected. I would imagine that osteoporosis may also be secondary to other conditions. So if you're service connected this isn't going to connect to osteoporosis, but if someone's service connected for type 2 diabetes, a Vietnam veteran, and then they get diabetic neuropathy, glaucoma, there's a whole lot of things that happen to your body as a result of type 2 diabetes. We can claim those other pieces as secondary to the diabetes.
Mm-hmm. And I know when also some of the vaccinations that we got, I remember when I went to the Gulf War, there were vaccine that I don't even know what their name was. It was crazy. There was one that they put in your back that felt like glue. It felt like Gubaglobin. I forgot. I think that was the name of it. And it was crazy. And a lot of times it wasn't in our medical records. So I remember during Desert Storm, and there were things that I guess that's why they call it the Gulf War illness.
Mm-hmm.
And I know somebody. What is the PAC-2 law? That was what I wanted to follow up, because I think a lot of people may not be aware who are not connected with the PAC-2 law that was passed and what it means.
So the PACT Act was signed into law on August 10th, 2022, and it expands benefits for a variety of different veterans from different eras. So it's mainly known for the burn pit presumptions from the Gulf War, from like 1990 forward. But it also expanded the geographic reach for Vietnam veterans of Agent Orange exposure. So prior to the PACT Act, you either had to have boots on the ground in Vietnam, or be in or have served on a ship that was no more than 12 nautical miles off the shore of South Vietnam. And then there were some exceptions for Thailand, but hard to prove. So what the PACT Act just expanded that if you served in Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Guam, various places, then you were presumed Agent Orange exposed, which then opened up all those Agent Orange illnesses. It also recognized some radiation accidents that happened. There was a ship Prometheus back in the day in the 60s. So there's also some very specific things, but and also it allowed private attorneys to sue on behalf of Camp Lejeune folks.
Yeah, the water issue, right? That was the water. Gotcha. We have another question from, let me see. I think it was, and then, what about the PACT Act for Cold War vets? And then that was from Eddie.
So that would just depend on, so when you say Cold War and I say Cold War, we might be talking about two different eras. So we have been told to consider Cold War the peacetime era between Vietnam and the Gulf War.
Yeah, so that is that Eddie was there in 1984.
Okay.
We were in Germany. Yeah.
So the only thing that that might have opened up is if they had found some toxic exposure areas wherever you served. So and so the VA is now including on like the healthcare application form a whole list of contaminants, from asbestos to radiation to just a whole list of things that could have happened. Now they're not going to be presumptive, so you would have to prove it through your medical records and have a doctor write a nexus letter saying that these two things are connected.
We have another question from Trace Round. What about in the reserves? I'm assuming if you're in the reserve or in the guard or active duty, is it any different, I guess?
So the thing that is different is when does what is active duty for the purpose of VA eligibility, and for the guard and the reserves, it's when you have been federally activated. Okay. So we have lots of folks that were in the reserves in the 60s, but they were never federally activated. Okay, so they would not be eligible. The exception would be if someone was injured or contracted an illness during one of their weekends or their 2-week training period or during basic training, and they're still having issues from that, then that is something that that can be claimed.
Got you. Okay. And I know it was overwhelming, but what advice would you give to veterans who feel overwhelmed by the claims process, if any?
Come see a VSO. That's what we're here for. We're here to help sort through it and guide you through it. in our office in Carroll County, we work with, we set up follow-up appointments, whether they're by phone or in person with our veterans along the way as just check-ins to keep us all moving forward, because many folks have submitted an intent to file, which holds your filing date for 1 year. Okay. And we want to help as much as we can in preventing a veteran from having their back up against a wall in the 11th month. So, but not all offices work that way.
Right.
We do.
Absolutely. So if there's any veterans out there or family, make sure that you check in your county who your VSO is and start that process. I know a lot of veterans reach out to companies to pay for it. Have you heard a lot of veterans that do that?
Francine? Pay for it?
Pay for somebody to do, like lawyers or companies that do that, to do their disabilities for veterans.
Right. So it is illegal. It's against federal law for anyone to charge for an initial claim. So when you when you file your compensation claim, you should never be charged for that. If you are working on behalf of a parent who is a surviving spouse of a veteran and may be eligible for a survivor's pension or DIC, no one should ever charge you for that. Okay. I've also learned more recently that there are these outfits out there that claim that they will produce a nexus letter for you, connecting your service to your injury or illness, and they charge hundreds of dollars. Not good, because it's not your treating physician. It's not going to have as much what we call probative value, so, and they look like they've been, manufactured a bit.
Gotcha. Wow, that is something. Ooh. So we're going to break for one more commercials. And then when we come back, Francine, we're going to wrap it up. Any final advice? I'll take any questions as far as what's the most important questions you ask the VSO, and what's one piece of advice you will give veterans who are just starting the process, even though they've been out for a while. So when we come back from break, we can address some of those.
Okay, great.
Another regular day, nobody knows. It's that time, he's coming home to them from a foreign land. He pulls up, his mama cries, looks at daddy with tears in his eyes and says, nothing feels better than this. Couple of months go by and no one sees. Something just ain't right, only wants his peace. He needs help, but he don't know the path to take or the way to go to be free and put his mind at ease. We will help, 'cause we can't stand to see a soldier go to God by their own hands. We will do everything we can to make 22-0 again. He gets help, but he still feels off. Sees an ad on the TV about a dog batting said, this is a man's best friend. Whoa, so he goes one day and he picks it up. Never thought a dog could bring so much love and put a smile on his face. But he's finally found a saving grace. He needs help, but he don't know the path to take or the way to go to be free. Put his mind at ease. We will help, 'cause we can't stand to see a soldier go to God by their own hands. We will do everything we can to make 22-0 again. Whoa, whoa. He needs help, but he don't know the path to take or the way to go to be free. Put his mind at ease. We will help, 'cause we can't stand to see a soldier go to God by their own hands. We will do everything we can to make 22-0 again.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at unwavering.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at unwavering.us.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Yeah, that's every video they play is deep. Man, that really got me because, you know, and in case for anybody out there don't know, 22 is a number of the amount of veterans that commit suicide, and that's one of the things we as a community need to do. So as we get ready to wrap this up, Francine, I think we left off. It's like, what's one piece of advice you would give to veterans who are just starting in the process?
Well, a very practical thing is make sure you have your DD-214. Make copies of it. Make sure your closest loved ones have it too, because it is the golden ticket. We can't do anything without it. That's a very practical thing. I think another is to seek the assistance of a VSO, someone who's accredited. And yes, VSOs, we do not charge for our services. We're not allowed. We would lose our accreditation if we did that to the VA. And try to, and just be realistic. I mean, like I use this as an example. If you broke your pinky while you're on active duty, you probably don't have problems with that now. So not a good thing to claim. we don't want to clutter a claim. Right. We want to keep it a little bit focused. It doesn't mean that the hard things won't be filed for. Okay. And not everything will succeed, but we will do our very best.
Absolutely. I know it's the DD-214. That's probably one of the most important pieces of paper that I ever had. That tells you everything. I needed it when I needed to get a federal job, and even when I had my disability for hiring authorities, and understanding that you need to keep that original one safe somewhere. I know some places you can go to the court, right, and they can file it somewhere.
Yes,
Francine, right?
Yes, at least I know the courts in Maryland do. For other states.
So we got to make sure that you take care of that. And like Francine said, have your ducks in a row. Try to have all this stuff. I remember when I sat down and thinking all them years, that I have been in, was it this and that? But you need to have document in your mind where these things were. Because a lot of the things that I got, there wasn't documented, but it was service connected. the condition that I got, and now, like, for example, I have something called foot drop, but it was because of my back and so on, and all the other injury stuff that I got. But I'm glad that I have the VA to help me out, on that. And I know for Eddie had put something down about it, when we talked about groups. He said Veterans Help Group charges 33.3% from back pay, and they are an advocacy for vets. That's one of the groups. You ever heard of them, Francine?
I've heard of a few. As long as they can charge that if they are doing a follow-up to an original claim. So if you were denied, then yes, an accredited veteran service officer or an accredited attorney can charge for that. But you should not ever pay for an initial claim. And you can have multiple initial claims, right? Because like drop foot, like that's not something that might have been present, 5 years ago, right. But now it could be put in as a secondary. So that would be an initial claim for that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Eddie said, awesome. I know that a lot of people out there have taken a lot away, Francine. So I just want to say thank you for providing this information and the love and dedication you give all veterans. I appreciate it, and everybody else too. And to any veterans, family members too, you guys play. I always say the hardest job in the military is the military family, the spouses. They're very important. So, if you know somebody that has a vet, or a friend that's a vet, pass this information on, so they can get something out of it, because knowledge is worthless unless you share it, and we need to share this information that Francine has put out. So without further ado, like Shakespeare, how you doing? Hey, okay, I know. Hey, I want
to Brooklyn. There you go.
I know, cars in the yard, But I want to say thank you to everybody. And Francine, thank you for sharing with us this information, which is so important. And maybe later on, as laws change, as things change, maybe have you back again to explain something that may change, so people understand how to interpret that. Because sometimes it is clear as mud. Oh, we got. Let me see what it says here. Cindy says, how can they connect illness to a vet when he doesn't go to the doctor or ER? That is a question that was asked.
That makes it really hard. So I have this conversation with a lot of my veterans, especially my male veterans, that that you need to go to the doctor. I understand that this you're dealing with this on your own, but we need a diagnosis and we need medical evidence from that. And it can be a civilian doctor. It does not mean you have to go through the VA. Right, it can be either or a mix of the two.
Yeah, because I had the same. I had some stuff when I was in, and then civilian doctors. I had a mixture too. So that you can get it from both. And if somebody has any other question, you can always still shoot in the comment or to MBR. Let me see. I think I got my information on here. So it says to be on the guest, but that's my email right there. So if any other questions come up while we're, once we just send an email, and I can always ask Francine for, anything that anybody missed or whatever. We got it here. Eddie said, that's my wife. Eddie, so you know what she's telling you? You need to go to the doctor. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for that. Thank you. So Eddie, those are your marching orders. You need to make sure you get that. So I want to thank everybody again for being here, sharing, Francine again, and for everybody, the audience, because without you, there wouldn't be us. So I want to say thank you. Have a good night. And this will be recorded. So if you need to go back, if there's something we missed, you can always go back and see it. And Francine, thank you, ma'am, so much for everything.
Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed. And thank you, everyone, for your service.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. We'll do this. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.